Well, hello there and welcome one and all. Hello to who we got here. I feel like I'm in, I don't know, a children's show. Hello, Sam, and welcome, Dylan. Hello, Dana and Naomi, and I see Lily, and I see Anthony, and I see Christina. Can you hear me okay? Good. Welcome, everyone. And we got a bunch of people here in studio. Joanna, hi, welcome. From Sydney. What's the time in Sydney? It's got to be early, late. I don't know. We changed time, right? Joanna, what's the time? Oh, different Joanna. Hi.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good. But what's the time wherever you are?
I'm in Brazil. Now
That's
it's
good.
8:30.
Muito obrigado.
It's almost the same.
Almost the same. Good. And look, Francesca speaks Portuguese. Say hi, Francesca.
Olá, Joana, como você está?
Lily speaks Portuguese. Where's Lily?
Oi, tudo bom?
Tudo,
See?
vocês?
Bem aqui. Obrigada.
Nada.
Obrigada,
I
gente.
don't speak Portuguese. Anyone else Portuguese over here? Going once, going twice. Oh, Noemi speaks Portuguese. What was I thinking?
Oi, tudo bem? Boa
There we
noite.
go. So tonight's class will be in Spanish. Yeah, just to colonize the Portuguese. No, sorry, offensive to start with. I'll take that back. Welcome one and all. Oh my God, is that you? Kaya, hi. Nice to see you. Engo Pika, nice. It's so nice to see familiar faces here and here. We're Foolish House at Three Jewels. Huge storm over New York City, like full on thunder and lightning and shaking and all sorts of awesomeness. If you don't know where you're at because some friend dragged you or you clicked on the wrong button on the internet and now you're in this class, let me just tell you what you're doing. Hi, Hannibal. Hi, Lindy. Nice to see you. You're at Three Jewels. Three Jewels has been around since 1996. Most of you weren't here before. 1996, it began as a Tibetan Buddhist center, tea house, and bookstore where you could just pop in and learn meditation for free or by donation. And it was the home place where the entire curriculum of a Tibetan Buddhist monastery, like the same stuff the Dalai Lama learns, got translated from Tibetan and Sanskrit into English in volumes and volumes of a course that takes 7 years to complete, which we still teach here, and it's called the Asian Classics Institute Courses, ACI. So you're going to hear people say ACI this, ACI that. That means they've been studying here. And all it is, it's the fundamental ideas of Buddhist thought put into a Western style. Here is some reading, here is a class, here is question and answer. And that's really the source and the core of everything we do at Three Jewels. But Three Jewels is much more than that. We are a non-profit. We teach free or by donation classes online, and we go out to homeless shelters or other places and teach there as well. We also do trainings and like all sorts of things to look at the human condition and try and tweak it for the better, right? Tweak down the part of the human condition that hurts. And that's what I want to talk about today. Now, hurt. Now, I want to talk about a bunch of things. And what is it that we can do to really shift our experience of being before it's too late? And it's not to be depressive, but it's to be factual. Yeah? Before it's too late, to me, means two things. You're too old to change. Too late. It's never quite too late. You can still influence. Hi. Or the time has come for you to say bye-bye, and that time is coming for all of us. And the reason I want to talk about that today is because on this day, 3 years ago, my mum passed away. I didn't think I was going to cry. I thought I was going to make a joke. She would have liked me to do a joke, yeah, just saying. But I'm not challenging her properly. I would have done a very bad joke and she would have laughed. You would have all cried, but that would have happened. So today is the 3-year anniversary of holding my mum's hand as she said goodbye. Many years earlier, I did that with my dad. And the experience was very different. And many, many, many years earlier, I did that sort of with my grandparents, my grandmother, and the experience was completely different. I was overwhelmed with grief and all the things that you would expect would happen when death and dying comes knocking. But thanks to having practiced these ideas that are found in the Tibetan Buddhist canon or in Buddhism in general or many places, right? But I just had access to this. My experience of my mum dying was extraordinary for both of us, extraordinary. And it's hard to put into words, but I want to talk about that because part of the Tuesday night classes, so I did the introduction. This is 3 Jewels. This is what we teach. We teach yoga, meditation, all this stuff. But we practice this view that comes from ancient India, moved through to Tibet and many other places in the world, and we call it Buddhism. But it's not an ism. Yeah? Any creature with a consciousness can learn these things to do with your mind and have a different experience of being. And I believe that you can find this in Kabbalah. I think you can find this in mystic Christianity. You can even find it in religions and philosophies of any place, really, because it's humans trying to figure out the human condition and how can I transcend the things that don't work for me and amplify, give access to, abide in the parts of you that are extraordinary and expansive and unlimited, because you have that potential too. Now, we come at it, the best I can tell from the little that I've learned about other traditions, the best that I can tell is that you come at it through 2 doors. The study, learn, analyze, write it down, check it out, do the math, remember stuff. You still practice those things, but you come at it through like an analytical, psychological perspective, yeah? Or you can come at this same thing through the bhakti route. The yogi has a bang experience and an epiphany arises, and you can have both experiences. I can't do the bhakti route. I'm very suspicious. You know, I'm like, yeah, that felt good, but where did it come from? Who put it there? Do I have to go to the same guru with a beard to get the bhakti that she did? Because it didn't work for me. Like, in my mind, there's 1,000 questions. And so I tend to need to understand where things come from. Can I test it? Can I break it? And that becomes the practice. So I hope to share some stories, and I hope to share some practices of what people call Buddhism in practice, but it's really transcending the parts of the human experience that are limited. Yeah? And for those of you who have come to my class before, you know I call Buddhism wake-upism because of the Sanskrit root, Bud, to awake, and Buddha is the one who did that. So it's not a dude, right? It really describes your capacity to Buddha, to wake up from something that seems this way but is wrong, is not true. And that's called the illusion that we wake up from, the illusion that you could get happy or transcend the human condition by doing lots of drugs only. I'm not saying you can't transcend the human conditions by not doing drugs, but or eating too much ice cream or having awesome sexy time, or, we are obsessed with trying to connect with things outside to give us that Buddha experience. I woke up, I feel love now. Oh my God, I'm so in love. And one of the biggest lessons I learned when I first met 3 Jewels in 1996, like within weeks of meeting this place, there was this young, beautiful Indian boy that lived upstairs, and I was confused at the time, like boys or girls. I liked everything that moved. But he was like hypnotic, and we would sit on the stoop outside on a New York night, waiting for class like tonight, and he was practicing the bhakti route. He was serving a guru from India who lived in his, and he just served him. That his whole path to enlightenment was draw images of his guru and serve his guru. And he was like very traditional that way, but he was like sweet and flowing with love, and I liked him. Yeah. And I was much younger. Yeah, it wasn't creepy. Shut up. No. People laugh at the wrong times. No. But he would say to me often, like, it was one of the first ahas, you know, imagine entering Three Jewels for the first time. There's like brainiacs translating text in Sanskrit and Tibetan, and from the scribbles come out ideas that shock your normal into beauty, right? So I'd landed there, and I landed there as I'm just a stupid boy from Argentina who doesn't speak English very well, and I'm not clever like them, and I'll never be clever. Like, I came at it with that perspective, so I'll never be the intellectual, like the real monks and, you know, the real practitioners of wake-upism. But I'd hang out with this boy, I can't remember his name, but I have a picture of his guru still, a hand-drawn picture. And every time we'd meet, he'd say, you know, Hector, don't get too happy because you'll get sad. And I'm like, what? I know. I'm like, it would screw with my mind. I'm like, I want to get happy, you know? He's like, don't get too happy because you'll get sad. And it took me a long time to unravel that teaching that this magical boy would say to me with his eyes, you know, languid eyes looking at me, and I'd be like hypnotized by beauty, which you've all been hypnotized by beauty, right? There's a message in the beauty you get hypnotized with. The more I practice, the more I realize that there's nothing in your world that isn't emerging from you. The interpretation of it is emerging from you. So whenever you meet languid eyes that look at you in a particular way and they move your heart a little bit, yeah, like this boy could do to me every time I met him, and then I'd be all open and ready, and then he's like, don't get too happy because you'll get sad. And I'm like, damn, like, I was happy looking at you and then I'm not, you know, because I shouldn't be happy, and I couldn't figure it out. Couldn't figure out what he meant for the longest time. But the more you understand the core of this philosophy, like there is a core to this philosophy, this practice, that if you get it, and you get it incrementally at first, if you get it, it unlocks all the other things that we think have a power, like meditation, like kindness, like generosity, like discipline, like all the practices that you see, like pranayama, like all these things that we are obsessed with in the modern wake-upist world, whether it be Buddhist or yogic or it doesn't matter. Just, I don't know, this thing has my algorithm and it knows now that I'm a wake-upist, right? And every now and then it thinks I'm a wake-upist of color, and every now and then it thinks I'm a femme chick with Lululemon pants. It doesn't quite figure out who I am, right? But it knows I'm a wake-upist, so I get to see lots of yoga, lots of meditation, lots of, you know, talks about philosophy and so on. But there's an algorithm here telling me what I'm obsessed about. And you could see all these practices, you know, do ayahuasca, do this, do that, go away, go on retreat, don't go on retreat, you know, work your ass off with a view, like 1,000 practices. I'm proposing, and I'd like to share with you tonight, that there is a key. There's a couple of things that if you really get them, and you get them incrementally, all those practices, without exception, make sense. And it will save you a life, or 17 lives, or 20 lives. It will save you time if you really get these two concepts that we're obsessed here at Three Jewels, right? Because understanding them lets you understand why and how meditation can function to bud you up, Buddha, yeah? To wake you up. Meditation by its nature, sitting your ass down still, closing your eyes, breathing, won't do anything for you. by itself, by its nature. Here I am, right? The Buddhist teacher telling you meditation's boring. It is boring, and it won't do anything for you unless you're doing something specific with your mind, which we all are all the time. We're doing something specific with our minds. For example, put up your hand if you've ever meditated or tried to meditate. Let's have a look. Who's a meditator? So we've got nearly everyone, yeah? Diego, why aren't your hands up? No. He's done meditation teacher training. He's never meditated. No. Sorry. And you all know that moment where you sit down and you're like, oh, I'm going to meditate, right? Here is my meditation body, right? Here's my meditation mind. I'm on the breath. You're not meditating. Shut up. You're stupid. Look at you. You look stupid. I'm not. I'm really doing it. Straighten your back. Okay, I'm straightening my back. Yeah, like our minds are forever doing something. It's either telling you a story about what you're doing or not doing, and that's what you're meditating on, right? Or, depending on who's taught you, I've met plenty of people who are trying to do absolutely nothing. Blank out your mind. Get rid of thoughts. It's not possible. It really isn't possible to get rid of thoughts. You can have an experience and you will find texts and you will find things that you get the sense that your mind is barely moving, but there is a expansive awareness that is sharply on that fact, and it's a knowing. And that feels like nothing's happening. And it's still, and it's perfect, and it's pristine, but it's still something. And you can't force that. You've got to relax into that. And that's the closest you're going to find to the nature of awareness. But then that alone won't do anything by its nature. It needs a mind to observe and experience that in a particular way. For that to bud you up, to wake you up, it needs something to wake up from. Right? There is a narrative that occurs after a perfect meditation. And that unraveling of what just happened, that narrative, is also caused. It doesn't come into being for no reason at all. I don't know if I'm talking weird. I'm losing some of you? No? Amy's like, yeah, I'm lost. No, kidding. I just saw your beautiful hair and I want to say hi. So I was rambling on about that because there is a key that unlocks all these practices, including pranayama, including compassion, including kindness, including meditation, including service, including all the things that the algorithm's going to tell you you need to do to get happy. And if you get those two things, then you really take power over your wake-upism. Because I can't give it to you. Teachers can't give it to you. Yeah, and yet we come to teachers or mentors and so on, really with the hope of mummy, daddy, teacher, help me. That they can teach you. I can say these words, but as many as there are creatures here and here, there are interpretations of these words. You can't help but hear it through your lens and your assumptions and all your stories and all your traumas and all your whatever, hopes. I can't force my understanding on anyone. And I wish I could sometimes, but not all of it because I still got some problems, yeah? And I don't want to pass them on. No one's going to come and save you. Save you. No one will save you. And you get to do that on your own. And if you get this key, which I'll say the words, but the words aren't the key, okay? It's the understanding of causality, karma. The understanding, what does that really mean? Karma. And the fact, the capital T truth, that things, everything, physical things, mental things, everything, lack inherent existence from their own side. They don't have power without a mind observing it. And that thing is called emptiness. These two things together, karma and emptiness, is, if you understand that, then you will understand why practices work, why meditation will function, why would your mind move a certain way. You can understand that if you understand karma and emptiness, and then you got your sort of a self-directing part. You can still continue studying. The world doesn't disappear. Yeah. You actually see the world for more than what it is. More than the little algorithm you're forced to think the world is, if you understand that key. And then you also understand, why the hell would I be kind? Why the hell should I minimize my negative effects in the world? Because if I just told you, just be nice to people, stop being a dick, you could do that for a short time. But eventually you're all going to be dicks. Yeah? Sorry, I've just told everyone it's a dick. It's probably not the best thing to do. But I hope you know what I mean. Like, there's an urge in you that isn't pretty. There's an urge in me that isn't kind. There's an impulse in us that isn't the best. And it's not to depress you. It's not to make you feel bad about yourself. It's to recognize what is. The urge to lash out. The urge to be better. Right? I need to win, to be competitive. You know, I've got that. Right? In our conversation with Jeremy, I was definitely better. Right? Yeah. No. Sorry. Just kidding. Jokes. Is it worth taming that part of us? And it feels, yes, but can you know with certainty why? And if you understand this karma and emptiness key, you would be so clear, and you would also be clear not to harm yourself when you can't help yourself but be a dick. Because you're going to be a dick. And that's half of the equation. And the other half, it's not enough to stop hurting the world. It's not enough. If you really want to transcend the negative experience of a human condition, which is available to every one of us, and that would be called Buddha, woke up, you then have to create the real causes to have this consciousness of yours experience this world as nothing but divine. And what if that was possible? And for me, that was worth investigating. Because I was telling Jeremy, like I was scared of going to university when I was out of high school because I wasn't clever enough. I was dumb. I couldn't remember things. I'll never be the intellectual. So a good way to avoid that, plus an old man told me to, is like, go traveling around the world, see what the world's like. Let that be your university. And my mind went, yeah, that'll be my university. Backpack. I worked my ass off for a couple of years, saved a ton of money, bought 3 tickets around the world and traveled 3 times around the world, visiting towns and countries and continents that I'd never been, languages that I didn't understand, but I saw humans trying to be humans. And it didn't matter the language, it didn't matter the dress code, it didn't matter anything. People were trying to be nice to each other and hurting each other. In families, in groups, in businesses, humans were being humans, crawling on this planet, being human. Yeah. It was around the Gulf War. Yeah. And I walked around for a while, backpacking through South America with a peace sign permanently pasted on my face. And when I had hair, I had long hair. And that was my protest around hurting humans. And then after that, I encountered Buddhism. Why am I rambling? Because there's a key to a practice that you have inside of you that no one can give you, but when you get it, you then will want to unravel that into whatever practice is calling you to practice. Because all practice is designed to remove the negativity that is being caused by our actions, by our dickness, yeah? Constantly wanting to lash out or hurt or in the excuse of protecting myself or whatever. If there's any harm at all created by our actions of body, speech or mind, that will create harm in our own consciousness, which we must experience because it's a cause to an effect. Does that make sense? Cause and effect are real. We live by it. Everything we are working with is caused by something. And the big aha idea from Buddha is like, that's true too of the movement of your mind. You feel happy, it must have been from you making others happy before. You feel unhappy, it must have been because your mind got a seed of seeing yourself making someone unhappy before. Very broad, right? To very detailed. You feel depressed. Where did you cause someone to feel depressed? And that's harsh because we can't hear it for what it really is, which is just cause and effect in our minds. We often hear that as, I am to blame, I am terrible, but I'm a victim and I want to get away from this terrible thing. You don't blame me for the terrible I experience. And Buddhism is saying, we're not blaming you for having blood. I think I talked about this time last week, right? You have blood. You are not the blood. Yeah? You have this condition. You're not the condition. And you can remove the condition, but you can't if you don't see it. So if your mind moved and had an experience, that must have been caused in your mind. And who else has access to your mind? Who else is putting stuff in your mind? Right? And that's a big question, right? There's a whole debate in the Asian Classics Institute courses that say, can anyone see your mind? Can your mum see your mind? Can she think your thoughts? She's the closest thing to your mind. At birth, did she not lose a little bit of her mind and it went into you and so you could read all her thoughts? And the answer is no, don't be stupid. Yeah? If my mum, oh my God, here we go, mum, okay? If my mum could see my thoughts, I'm going to make a public confession. I've made it a few times, but I'm going to do it again. I have two reoccurring moments of mind from my early childhood where I hurt my mum. Yeah? One was when I was being disciplined as a little boy, She was, I won't do a double confession, I'll do a single confession. She caught me doing something naughty, yeah? And she made me do, that'll be a confession for another time. She made me do these chores. And it was unfair. I don't know if you've all felt mum telling you to do something was unfair, yeah? So I remember she told me to go pray or something. She was going to be a nun. Obviously that didn't work, right? She was going to be a nun. She told me to go pray or something. And instead of praying, I asked God to kill her. Yeah, I'm like, I know, sorry, Christine. I'm like, I'm a little boy, okay? It's not this grown ass man who's doing this, okay? This little boy who was hurt by mom is sitting there going, please God, kill her. Like, really pathetic, right? But it still burns in my mind. I remember the intent. It was bad. Like, I really wanted God to do that to her, because then my problem would be over, right? We have this impulse to protect. If I looked at that moment from a karmic point of view, it was at that time, I don't know if you've seen those TikToks, it was at that time that the seed was planted in Hector's consciousness to imagine his holy mother dead, because he commanded it and God did it, thank you, right? So that seed, that movement of mind, I mean, I didn't know better, but that was in my mind. It's still there. I can remember the memory of that moment. Yeah. The intent was not nice, and I sort of knew it, and I was like sneaking, like, God, please listen to me. Don't listen to her. Kill her. Right? And then, of course, a couple of hours went by. She made me dinner. It was a nice dinner. And then she was loving, and I'm like, went back praying, God, please take her back. Don't kill her. Please don't kill her. Right? So for a couple of hours, I'm pissed with my mom as a naughty little boy, and I'm asking her life to be destroyed. And that is a cause in my mind. I can't ignore the fact that this little stream of consciousness, whether he was, this boy, Hector, whether he was ignorant of it or not, had that impulse put into his consciousness, and cause and effect, if it includes the mind, must begin to grow and affect. That course must begin to grow and affect in his mind. And it's like a tumbleweed. Yeah, things multiply, things grow. Courses grow. Courses don't stay tiny. Things become bigger things. And so in that respect, Hector has the seed of harming a life of a special being in his head, right? Which, according to Wake Uppers theory, if that's the cause, the effect must have equal and opposite reaction, just like physics. Which, if I ever have the mental perception that my health, my body, my life is at threat or about to end or ending or threatened at all, it must have come from some similar kind of seed before. And I'm not saying whenever I get sick, it's that one particular seed that caused it, but you can see the correlation. Does that make sense to people? Yeah? So it's not like, oh my God, don't tell me I caused my own suffering. I'm not worried about the knife that cut the suffering or the pancreatitis or whatever that pancreas is, whatever that is there. You know, there are nominal causes. Eating too much of this will have this kind of effect. And that is true in the nominal sense in Buddhism. Buddhism says that's true. It doesn't say that doesn't exist. It says that's true. But deeper to that truth is that this particular collection of Hector body and Hector mind has a mental experience of eating that particular food, and that causes this experience of suffering. Because other people eat a ton of stuff like that and don't get that feeling. Do you see what I mean? So it couldn't come from the stuff, according to Wake Upism. And if you get those two, and there's 1,000 ways to explain that, and unfortunately, we have to study that, think through that, try and break that, challenge that, for it to create a new algorithm that our minds would naturally begin to see that in our reality. And that will unravel every practice. Why did I choose that example? Because today is the anniversary of my mum dying 3 years ago. Right? To see her pass away. Who's your mum? So I want to talk a little bit about that also. Good, I'm doing okay. Is what I'm sharing okay? Or is it too traumatic? Or is it too rambling? Yeah, can you give me some sign? Give me a sign. Yeah. Thanks. Good. Is it okay in here? Yeah. Not rambling too much. Good. The reason I want to talk about my mum tonight again is because today's our anniversary, but also because we're all going to be forced to have that experience. And that experience doesn't have to be what you think it is. It was deeply sad to lose my mum. I'm not saying it wasn't. It was hard to watch her wither away. From diagnosis of pancreatic cancer on Mother's Day 3 years ago, May somewhere. It was 90 days before she finished breathing. And if I'm being really honest with you all, what a blessing to spend that time with someone so intimately, because that moment is coming for all of you. If you have a good relationship with your parents, which I did with my mum, she wasn't always a saint, but I had a pretty awesome relationship with her. Good. You can continue that kind of experience, but that moment is coming. And if you're lucky, it'll be in a hospital that takes care of them. If you're lucky, you'll be able to travel next to them and hang out for a moment or two. If you're really fortunate, you'll be able to communicate really the essence of who you are and who they are for you. And if you're extremely, extremely lucky, you will be able to fend off the impulses to lash out because it's unfair. And it's terrible. And it's unjust. And that experience I was able to have with my mum thanks to the wake upists. It trained my mind to not be distracted by the obvious, right? She's in pain, doubled over. This day, 3 years ago. I could have lost my shit. My sisters lost their shit. And my brother lost his shit. And everyone lost their shit in very different ways. And the different ways were a direct correlate to the way that have been habituating their algorithm, their minds, to think about what the world is and what do you do when you're angry, and what do you say when you're sad. I had training to observe my mind before reacting. It's called meditation. Yeah? Meditation will help you choose where you place your attention. And it will help you understand that your mind will have an experience of being able to stay on attention on an important object of your attention if you train it that way, and it will result that way because of cause and effect, because you're affecting your mind to do that. And the more you do it, the more you do it, and the more you do it, until the algorithm becomes self-sufficient, and all you see is what you've trained yourself to see, which is reality. And so back to the hospital towards the last few days, seeing my siblings express nothing but what they've been training themselves to see. What do you do when you're angry? Well, you lash out at authority. So one of my sisters was like really abusive to the poor bastard doctors who were trying to come and give my mum medicine. And my sister would be like, "You murderers, you're giving her poison, you will kill her." And the poor guy's trying to give my mum painkillers or something. Yeah, and so he was trying, but my sister couldn't help. It wasn't that she's being stupid. She couldn't help but see that. Because that's whatever she'd been training her mind to do, or untraining her mind to do, when difficult circumstances arise. My brother, on the other hand, his response to pain is curl up on a couch and get depressed. Like, don't talk to anyone. I've got a headache, can't talk to anyone. And so to see him do that, yeah, it pained me, but that's what we train ourselves to do. And thanks to the boy that said, don't get too happy because you'll get sad, I was able to train my mind over time to really keep looking and investigating and not be distracted by the appearance of things. Of course, it's terrible to watch a loved one die, but I'm not wasting the next 3 days with my mum being angry. I'm going to spend it listening to her most beautiful thoughts. That's worth doing. It helped her. I'm going to ask her, what's your favorite music, Mum? What's the one you remember the love that moved you to love the most? And she'd tell me, and I'd find it on the internet. I don't know if you've heard of the internet, but you can find really old music there. And then I'd play it secretly, and you'd see her heart open up. That's worth doing for the last 3 days. It's not that I wasn't sad, and it's not that it wasn't terrible. But to be hyper aware of what courses you want to plant in your awareness, especially at this moment where it's literally do or die. Yeah, I didn't know how long. And the beauty is that of playing that game with my mum for the last few days of her life, for months, last 3 months, but the last few days were particularly special. It was particularly special because my siblings were exhausted, and so they couldn't come to the hospital anymore. And it was just me and her, yeah, except for one sister who was really like, just wanted to be by her side. The intimacy took a completely different level to really share what her idea of what would happen next. you know, and she's like, I'm actually a little interested to know what's going to happen next. But she couldn't say that next to my sister, because then she'd be like, don't be morbid, you know, like. So when she had space, thanks to having trained my mind through this wake upist lens, in particular, the key of karma and emptiness, meaning I am forced to experience in this moment something that has been in place for a long time. The seed has been put in place, but I don't have to react in any other way than my choosing. And I choose love, and I choose beauty, and I choose a whole bunch of other good things in relation to her, because it will have an effect both in her mind moving forward, wherever she was going to be, and in my mind moving forward. Therein lies the real life application of all these practices. You like doing your yoga asana? What the fuck for? Your body's going to be on that bed if you're lucky. Yeah? And the answer is not, okay, I don't have to do asana, although that's my answer. The answer is, if you understand that by putting your body in a particular shape with the right mental motivation, with the right understanding, it will imprint a certain experience in your consciousness that must come to fruition at some future time. And then all of a sudden, once you get that, and you get a little bit of a result of either your yoga asana, or your pranayama, or your meditation, or your classes, or whatever your practice is, your kindness, then everything, without exception, because your mind is present in all those things, becomes the cause of your future paradise. If you're planting paradises, and if you're planting anger, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to get more anger. No one else is putting it in there. Your mind is forever constantly aware. And the reason, again, that the reason I chose to share like the story of Mum is not just because it's her anniversary today. Well, that was the clear reason, is that it's an your minds are more amplified when it's such an important topic. Death and dying, loved ones. Those things are important, right? You're paying attention. I'm paying attention, sharing, and I'm like, say it as clearly as possible. Try and share the real essence. Like, my mind is hyper aware because mums are important, right? No one's walking around here without a mum. You came out of her, all of you. Doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, whether you like her, you didn't like her. She had you inside her for 9 months. And so mentally, this becomes a heightened, important, fertile ground for whatever moves our mind. So this seed is much more powerful than talking about TikTok or talking about something else. Talking about mums, hyper attention, deeply imprints the mind, deeply plants a seed in our mind. So I'm aware that that's one of the techniques to get a faster result or a bigger result to what you're causing in your mind. Do you see what I'm getting at? You're choosing fertile ground, important things, where to plant your seeds. Mums, let's talk mums. Super important. Everything we talk about, hyper. Death, pretty important, right? What is it? Death and taxes, right? But I don't know, you can get rid of taxes. You know, you can't escape taxes. Death is coming. And please don't hear this as death is coming, right? Death is coming. Like, it's such a fact. It's such a fact that to ignore it would be to be negligent. It would be like driving down a highway, high-speed car, or being Jeffrey Bezos in a spaceship and being blindfolded. You see what I mean? And not knowing where you're going. It's like you're going to death, for sure, right? Choose what you'd like to do between here and death. Not to be morbid about it, but it sort of puts your house in order. It's like, oh, maybe I don't waste too much time on my TikTok. If you can get away from the algorithm. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that there is a technique to the planting of seeds. There's a technique to the karmas we plant. And it really is loading the projector that is projecting your reality, which is a real reality, but it's only real to you in your particular way. The fact of emptiness, which is the other side of the projecting reality, is that anything and everything is truly available to be anything else, dependent on the projectors. In other words, things are a blank screen. Things are empty of a nature. There isn't an essence in this thing. This thing we call a phone. It is a phone. It is not a phone. But it isn't a phone for a consciousness that doesn't experience it the way we experience it. What makes us human is that we see this as phone. We see this as cup. We experience it as cup. It really is cup. Really, for us, it really is. But under analysis, when you really investigate where is the cupness in this thing, is it forcing itself out into the planet? If it was, dogs must see cups. Crickets must see cups. Everything with a consciousness must see precisely what you see, and that's not true. This is death trap for ants. This is something to crush by elephants. And you know, if you've been in Three Jewels, we've used the story of the pen to death, right? An object, a cylinder, pen for humans, chew toy for dogs. If you get that, that is the key. Because what that means is that everything is up for transformation. But we have to do a couple of wake-upist warnings, yeah? Just because there is no cup here forcing itself on me doesn't mean this is not a cup for us. The only cup that exists on this object is my mind experiencing it, labeling it as cup. I can't help it. And wake up and say that's caused because there's another mind, a little ant mind, forced to experience this as danger, a drown trap. They don't even think cup. That consciousness is right. This consciousness is right. It's caused by here to really experience it that way. And this whole course on debating, analyzing, and breaking that down. If you get that, that's worth investigating between now and destination death. Why? Because if that's true, if it's true that things are dependent on us and that's what makes them real things, yeah. Remember I said warning, it's not that it doesn't exist, it just doesn't exist that way by itself. Yeah. It sounds weird, but you hear it if you hear it. If that's true that things don't have a nature, then the cup can be something extraordinary or terrible. Then the pen can be a pen or a chew toy. Then your favorite music can be stunning or revolting. The decibels in that order. And we know that under minimal investigation sounds correct. But if you take that to its logical conclusion, then languid eyes are not just something to screw or possess. And they're also not just wisdom by themselves. And dying mum doesn't have to just be dying mum. And feeling sad doesn't have to be feeling sad by its nature. If things are truly empty of having a power projected onto us, and the power is coming from us to things, then truly everything, including your perception of yourself, is up for transformation. And then it's only dependent on what you do next, and what you do next, and what you do next. That creates the new algorithm of the future you have to step into tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And so all of a sudden, understanding this wake-upist practice turns everything into a course for the new algorithm. which Buddhists called enlightenment, nirvana, a state of being that transcends the limiting, hurtful experiences that we are currently forced to experience. Terrible things pass, but we grip to them, and in reaction to them, we cause more harm, which creates more terrible experiences. Have you ever been in an argument with your partner and said the wrong thing? You were what, defending yourself, trying to prove a point? You just cause more arguments in your mind. When you get this key, everything I say, think, and do is creating the framework for the next future I'm stepping into. Then it doesn't matter whether your partner is yelling at you or not. You're going to shut your mouth the best as possible, because you're about to create your future reality. And in that reality, you don't want to be yelled at. So you ain't yelling. Even if you're right, you're not yelling. And then all of a sudden you begin to have power when you see the effects of that behavior. That's the path to wake-upness. And then all the practices make some sense. Does that sound reasonable? Good. I hope you love your mums more. Give them a phone call. Even if you don't like them or they don't like you, just think of them. They had you inside their tummy for 3 years. No. 3 years is a long time to have you in the tummy. They didn't have you. This is me understanding biology. Your mums did not just take you for 3 years. It was a mistake. 3 years is how long my mum has gone. 6 months. No, 9 months. Unless you're a preemie baby, it's 9 months. Okay. I'll fix it. I promise I'll fix it. Look, if my mum was here, which she has been, she's been to 3 jewels, not this place, but the old place. She'd want me to make more fun of her than I did tonight, but I'm just being respectful to you. I would have been much more inappropriate. Okay, I'll be inappropriate for her sake. I hope you, thank you. I hope you forgive me. She tried to learn English. We grew up in Argentina. She tried to learn English by force. So she commanded that we only speak English at home as soon as we moved to Australia from Argentina. So we kids would go to school, and of course we learned all the dirty words first, right? Because my parents didn't go to school, they didn't learn all the dirty words. So my mum, when we had the rule of only speaking English at home, in the morning she would say, "Come on, children, it's time for breast fuck." And and the 4 of us, the 4 little ones at the table, would be like she said fuck. We couldn't even figure out what breast fuck was because we were too young. Like, we didn't figure that out, you know? But we heard fuck, you know. And so we're like, no. And she's like, "I say it wrong." We're like, no, mum, no, everything's good. And it was a couple of weeks where we had to have breast fuck every morning, right? Until she caught on that something wasn't working. So she's like, "You have to tell me," you know, and like in Argentina, you are never saying rude words to your parents. You're like, you don't do that, especially in the 60s, 70s when I grew up. So we just did it by gestures, like, "You said this, mom," you know. She went bright red, you know, but she couldn't help her terrible accent. So she would like this story. I want to bring her with joy to the room. When she broke up with my dad and she wanted to be independent, which was an awesome thing to see her do. To see, wow, in Australia, a woman doesn't have to be subservient and do everything the guy wants. I can have my own life. It was amazing to see her do that. And I became her little man who would go and translate with her. I had to go to the doctor and translate stuff about women's issues, and it was really difficult. But this one time, we went to the shop and the shop assistant came. She was trying to buy linen. And she's like, the guy's like, "Can I help you?" And she's like, "Let me try." To me, I want to try and communicate because I practice. I'm like, "No problem." And she's like, "I'm looking for shit for the bed." And the guy proceeds to give her an English lesson. between the difference between shit and sheet. And I remember like, shit, sheet, ship, sheep, right? And so she was saying that in the, so anyway, invoking mum, if you have your mum with you, or if you are connected with your mum, I don't know, in the next day or so, or hour, send her a text, a love or something. That's worth practicing. You will be imprinting things in your mind. That's really wake-upism in practice. That's why love is important. You want to live in a world of abundance and joy and where things are working out, then stop hurting yourself and others, because you're a self as well. Stop saying bad shit about you to you. You wouldn't let someone else say that, so stop it the best you can. Don't be down on yourself if you're still doing it. Make fun of yourself. Yeah. And be as kind and compassionate and joyful as possible. Don't be a doormat. Be nice and compassionate and loving. Yeah. And know that every cause must have an effect. And if you want to do that amped up, learn to meditate, because that will keep your attention there, especially when shit hits the fan, when you're by that bed, if you're lucky. And then you can just be totally focused on all I have to do is engage with this mind of hers, or whoever that is to you, and put nothing but love and wisdom in there. Because that she'll take to wherever she goes next. Thanks for letting me indulge my story today. It's important. And I hope it will help you in any other story. A couple of things. There was a couple of questions, and please feel free to scan code the question thing, and in the form that you get to ask questions, there were a bunch of really good questions last week. The one that I remember most is where I said I'm an idiot, and someone's like, hold on a minute, words still have power, yeah? And you said like you're an idiot was interpreted by you in a certain way. And I hope I clarified a little bit of that in the talk today. Buddhism says things are your projection. Everything you experience is really experienced through the filters of you, your own algorithm. Things don't have a nature. The word idiot, hearing someone call you idiot, even if it's yourself or someone else, does not guarantee a response of anger or joy or laughter or anything. Yes, words exist, and yes, they have intent, but it's still dependent on your consciousness, on how you respond. And you respond in two ways, right? You have the automatic reaction, which is still a karma. It's still a movement of the mind that arose. But then you tend to have more choice in the second thought. What do I do with that reaction? He called me an idiot. Now I'm being defensive. And now, in the defensive mode, I get to choose what I do next. I can call you an idiot again if I want to be called an idiot over and over. Or I choose some other way of responding, which is what I would like my future to look like. And it might mean thinking, oh, this poor bastard doesn't know I'm not an idiot. Or it might be like, maybe I can see why he thinks I'm an idiot. Or whatever the story is, divert from having to lash out to the world. So yes, things exist, but they still exist in dependence to our experience or projections or unconscious interpretation of them. I'm going to encourage you, send me some more questions. I like the questions. I try to weave them in every class. And a couple of announcements. Starting this Thursday, ACI starts again, or next Thursday? So not this Thursday, but next Thursday, after the next class, you can sign up for a 10-week intensive on what's called the Bodhisattva Charavatara, one of these Asian Classics Institute courses taught by Sarah and Earl. Awesome practitioners of wake-upism. You're going to get a ton of depth around the practice of being a bodhisattva, of actually trying to plant the most incredible seeds in your mind. Yeah, was that you up there, Bobby? Yeah. I think it was. That's awesome. Yeah, sorry, Kelly, that's wrong. Anyway, so if you can make that, that's awesome. Of course, we've got free or by donation classes online. A couple of important things coming up. Memberships change price September 6th. So if you want to lock in the unlimited memberships, you're going to save about $40 a month, and it's worthwhile. And we're taking applications for meditation teacher training starting October 1st. Application online and the rest. we're here for any of you who have any questions. I'm going to sign out and hang out with the folk in person. I send you and everyone blessings. Thanks so much for practicing with me. Talk to your moms, and if they're not there, send them love, or send some other moms love. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Go Peacock.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Hector.
Andre and Grace. And oh, that's so awesome. And Steph together. Lindsay.